Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ellen. So today I thought I would teach you how to make a simple watercolor winter landscape using just a couple of techniques. This is perfect for any beginner who wants to paint something like this. This is a winter scene. And I go over the step by step. You have it's like a 3-step process. You're doing the wet on dry on your paper, then wet on wet with bleeding in color, and then wet on dry again on top of it. So a layering technique. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. If you're a Patreon member, you get the bonus one with the little winter landscape with this. And if you're not a Patreon member, if you consider joining, you can click the link in my description box. You can cancel and join anytime. I have extended videos, added videos, weekly exclusive tutorials that are not on YouTube that are longer and more in depth, a little more advanced sometimes. And yeah, we have like a Facebook group, and Patreon members get first dibs watercolor workshops and retreats, and we also have on the top tier a live stream once a month, which is great. You can ask questions. We have a lot of fun on the live stream. So, but for this tutorial, really simple if you're just starting out. I always recommend though, the best paper to get is the arch paper, which you see I use here, and it's in my description box for doing wet on wet or really good quality cold press paper. People have not great results because they're not getting a really good quality cold press paper for wet on wet. You really need the paper for this. So if you're just starting out, you can practice on, maybe scrap paper for that. But then when you go in this do the tutorial, I recommend the paper. So without further ado, let's get painting. All right, for this simple watercolor painting winter tutorial, let's go over some supplies. I have Arch 100% cotton cold pressed paper, taped down with just some Scotch Magic tape on a thick piece of cardboard. Really kind of simple. Unless you have a block, this is what you should do, or you can stretch your paper. I'll be using several different brushes, and I'll go over them as I use them, and everything's always in the description box below. So I'm just going to take a pencil. I have this is like a 7x9 piece. You can make it any size you want. And just figure we can have like a pathway. So I'm going to have like a little hill kind of coming up here, and then kind of dipping down here. And then I'm going to probably put some trees in. So you're going to map out some trees. You don't need a traceable or anything for this kind of tutorial if you're a Patreon member or anybody else. So you're just going to put a line down, right? You're thinking you're going to have a big evergreen tree, maybe like another one here. We'll put a little one back here and put a line down kind of like here on the mound. And that will kind of map out where our tree is. We can put a little branch here, and then if you want to put some little trees in here. So we're just going to figure out where we're going to have the trees, and it's kind of like a path coming in this way. If you want to make like a road, do that, but no need to. So now you've just mapped up the little hill, mapped out where you want your big evergreen trees. Now we're just going to loosen up some paint with a brush, and then we're going to just plop some paint on the paper. So I'm going to loosen up some yellow. This is my cadmium yellow deep. I have a little blue in there, so it's making it green. You can loosen up some burnt umber. We'll play around with some yellowish brown colors, and we're going to do some blues. So I have ultramarine blue, deep. I like the deep. And you can mix that with burnt sienna and mix a nice gray. So playing around with these colors. I want them fairly loose. Consistency would be almost like you're drinking tea, right? So make it really loose like tea, which means you're adding lots of water. If you can see this. Adding lots of water, see that? Consistency. I do want to add a little bit of brown to my yellow. I don't want it so bright. Okay. Now there's a couple ways you can do it. I'm not going to paint all of this wet, right? You can just start to put the paint on the paper wet on dry, because this is dry, or wet on wet. So we're going to try with some wet on dry first. Take the yellow. I kind of want the yellow in the center here. Like the sun shining through. Just kind of plop it in the center there. I'm going to tap my brush back on my paper towel. And then I start to play with some blues. Adding in, my burnt umber. Loosen this up a little bit. Again, it's wet on dry. Now I'm going to grab some water on my brush, tap it on the paper towel, kind of mush them together. Maybe grab a little more brown. See, on both sides. Start to grab my ultramarine blue. Now if it goes and touches the brown, it will turn into gray. Gonna loosen up some more blue. Right? Going in here. And I've got that blue mixed with the lovely burnt sienna, so it's gray. So playing around with this color. Now I'm gonna grab more water again and just kind of loosen this up. Dipping my brush in water and moving it around the yellow area now. I'm just kind of mushing the paint around. You see this? It's kind of very wet, but not super wet. I'm mushing it around. Going in here. Called the mushing technique. And I'm going to go up and put some blue up and around my yellow. In here. You can kind of move it down here a little bit more over that burnt sienna. So you can see, you can kind of like a winter yellow sky in the center. I'm going grabbing my gray, a little more bright blue. You can grab some of the browns too. So burnt umber, you see I'm tapping back in there. Playing around with adding some depth with some brown and blue. Now at this stage, you can see kind of like it's almost like bleeding trees. You can kind of bleed color almost like an evergreen tree kind of happening in here, right? So let's mix up some green. We've got the cadmium yellow deep, still very wet in here, by the way. Add some Prussian blue, and you already have green. A nice bluish green. When you keep adding more Prussian blue, I'll add a little burnt umber, and it tones that green down. Now I'm using the Princeton 12 Neptune series brush. I don't know if I mentioned that. I'm sorry if I didn't. That happens, I forget. But I'll have them in the description box. So you can already see kind of like tree kind of, you know, happening over here. So I'm going to get this paint a little thicker than tea. I'm adding more paint. I like to use tube paints. It's easy to mix the paint. The pan paints take forever to mix up, and the consistency isn't as great. You can reactivate the tube paints with just some water. So I'm getting a little darker here, adding a little more yellow. Okay, I'm going to switch to a Princeton 8 long round Velvet Touch series. Now the consistency here is more like a cream to milk kind of combo. So remember we did that line down. We're going to do like a little test. We're going to put a line down. It should be a little thicker than the last paint. Yeah, see? It's kind of doing this spider thing. Zoom in. We're going to have to play with that. We're going to tap on the sides a little bit. Down below, we can tap down below. We'll create some simple evergreen trees. Now I didn't want it so wet, so we're going to do that. Just a little tappy tap. We get it to our first green tree like that. It's already a cute little evergreen tree. That's just a simple tree you can make in 2 seconds. You don't have to worry too much about anything, right? Just a little evergreen tree in the background. Isn't that cute? We don't want to do more spider ones. We could, if you want to. I like doing like a light green, brown kind of tree here. See, I've got the mixture, mixing the green. The consistency is tea, but I'll tap it on my paper towel. I don't want to make it bleed too much in the yellow. I'll do a line down, a small one. Yep, see it's bleeding a little bit, but that's okay. We can have like a little brown tree if you want to add some blue. Play around with this. Just doing a line and a wiggle, and you have a little faint tree in the background. See how simple that was? It's a line down and just kind of wiggle going up to the triangle. Just like we did the first evergreen tree. You can make them more faint colored. I'm adding a little more blue. So I'm taking my ultramarine blue and mixing them with my brown. So it's kind of a gray. You barely can see that tree. If you want it thicker so it doesn't move as much, let's grab some ultramarine blue, really thick. Some burnt sienna. It's going to make a gray. It's really thick, but I just want to tap off of the excess. And I can go back in here and do the line. Now you can really see the line. See that line? And you can kind of make some more specific kind of branches. Just do like a V. It's still kind of bleeding, but a little bit better. See? Just tap and leave some spaces. And you have a nice little gray tree. You want a variety of the trees. We don't want all the same. So at this stage, I'm going to go in and just add a little bit more color. I want it to let it dry because I want to go back over and do like, you know, this is more of a bleeding wet on wet scenario, but we want hard kind of lines of trees. So we're going to wait to this stage for this to dry, and then we're going to go back over and draw some nice pretty evergreen trees, right? So do a few like this, these little spidery trees. Do another little one here. See? A little teeny tiny one in the background. Doing even a dark one right in front. Look at that. It's already looking like a winter hill. And we didn't really do much of anything. You know, less than 8 minutes. We're just bleeding the color. Just take your time tapping it. Just doing a line down and tapping it. See, I can do another one to show you. Line down. Just kind of tapping. Or, see, I'm kind of making like a V. And then you can tap that left to right. Do, 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 do. Go up into a triangle and a top. Like that. We have our gray trees. Really simple. Like, remember, keeping the yellow in there, it looks like the sunlight, right? And we have all these beautiful colors in the background. And if you want to do another gray one, I mean, I might paint right over this gray tree, but it's fun to play while it's still wet. And just kind of wiggling back and forth. So obviously it gets bigger on the bottom, smaller on top. And you have your little trees. Isn't that cute? Already simple, easy, blah, blah, blah. We'll add the extra steps after it dries. All right, now that it's dry, we're going to go back in with our green. We're going to mix up some more green. I'm going to get my Prussian blue right here. My number 8 long round over to the series. Yellow, cadmium yellow deep. And I add a little burnt umber. Change the green of that color. It's fairly thick. Make it a little bit darker. Right. Now we're going to start off with the dark, thick paint. Remember that line we drew? I'll zoom in. I'm going to do a little line here to help with the evergreen. And you're just going to do this little wiggling. See, like pull some out. Kind of going up, leaving some space. Can kind of attach a little bit. Come down a little bit, go out, and have some wiggling going on here. We're going to be getting a little bit bigger, leave a little space. Want a little space at some of these. See? Come down, go over here a little bit, wiggle. Come down. Now going closer to the bottom, we'll have like, we could use the brown. If you want to go in and just take burnt umber, help you with the actual tree trunk. You can go like ahead like this, mix it together, boom. Now we're going to take the same green, again, kind of wiggle this. I'm going to leave some space for now. See how I'm leaving like a little V space? And we're going to kind of wiggle, make it a little bit thicker now. So you wiggle and then pull some little strands out this way and kind of attach in these ones. So it starts to look more like an evergreen. See how I'm doing that? Wiggle, going upward, pull a little couple out like this, kind of wiggle it and attach the top part. I want to leave some space, but also wiggle it out. Now up here it kind of looks goofy. We want to go back in here and do the same thing. Go up, make a little couple of lines kind of come out this way. Wiggle it, little lines coming out. So it looks a little more natural. And you got your evergreen tree. It's really kind of simple technique. Just going to go out. And you see I'm kind of doing this back and forth movement. couple little spaces, kind of connect a few. You can have it kind of droop down here or out. You know how like Christmas trees kind of droop down, and have some little feathering of the needles kind of coming down. Just kind of mush. And that's how you do a tree, right? That's like how you do a serious tree. We're gonna do the same thing, that same technique with the bigger brush. Why? We're gonna do like a mushing kind of one here in bluish green. So I've got that ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. It's bluish gray. Could add a little green to that too if you wanted to. And here, I'm going to have one over here. I'm going to water it down a little bit more and tap it on my paper towel. So we're going to do the same thing here. We can pull the line all the way down, and we start to do that little mushing kind of technique. See? It's a little bit easier to mush it with the bigger brush. This will dry lighter. This is another stage. Like we're doing a 3-step stage. And you can push down and add that and kind of like really kind of mush it down the bottom here. See? Add those little lines. Boom. Mush. That will dry much later. We're going to have another tree on top of that behind it. So this is behind the tree. We can put another tree like right here, in front of our little other one we did earlier. Again, do the same kind of wiggle movements that I showed you on this one. Kind of push that one. Remember that line for that one, we're going to use that tree. We'll paint that in a bit, right? You can do the same thing back here. I kind of probably should have done that here, but I wanted to show you that technique. So you can do this technique back here that we did over there. I'm going to mush some of my green into here. And we have our tree in the background. But it's not bleeded like that one. It's more, you can see the actual tree. All right. Now we're going to take some of this blues that we mixed up here. This one's got green in it. I'm going to go back and add some burnt sienna. We'll start to put some little shadowing going on here. Going across. Down. Kind of wiggle that. See? Not too much to that. I'm going to kind of put some over here too. Kind of meet them. And kind of go like this. With the tip of the 12. Going up, and you're kind of wiggling it down. See, get the shadows in there. You can add some other colors to it, and you can kind of bleed it. You can grab some water, kind of bleed this down a little bit here. Right? You can add a little bit. Let me grab some like browns. Burnt sienna, maybe a little bit of yellow. Kind of play with that a little bit. You know, snow isn't exactly clean and neat all the time. And even over in here, you can play around with adding a little burnt sienna and the blue. Get that little bit. See? Really simple. And of course, way in the back. Can't leave that so white. I'll add a little blues in the back here. And add some lines. Pretend there's some shadows coming from trees over here. Just go like that, and you can kind of mush the paint. We'll add some grasses too, and a little brown helps too. It's kind of cool, right? We haven't done this tall tree yet. We'll do that in a second. But see how fast and simple this was? Now I might want to go back in here and add some more depth with color in here. And I can put another tree over there if I want to too. Make the shadow a little bit darker. Little kind of steps kind of going there. Boom. It's really fast and easy. And then we're going to let this dry. I'm going to add this last tree and some grasses and we're done. So just like this tree, we'll take some burnt umber. Maybe you want to make some Paynes gray or just keep a deep brown. Paynes gray will make that burnt umber darker, almost like a deep dark brown, right? We've got that tree. We just drew the stem, well, the trunk of it. And go back. I'm going to add some more shadows again. And we can add some branches coming off. And we can start to put in the evergreen in a second. And meanwhile, we can take the same brown and start just put some trees in front of these ones too. You know, just put some little broken, wiggly tree branches kind of happening back here with the brown. Even small little skinny ones, right? Same thing over here. Little skinny trees, they're just kind of hanging in the background. You can use this for grasses. Whatever you're going to put for grasses, I'm going to go back and add a little bit of shadow to that too. So grass is just swooping your brush like this. Don't put them everywhere. You want to be strategic in your grasses because it will look kind of silly and goofy, right? So we put those little grasses in there. We can add some more trees. Just again, taking your brush, kind of going in here, doing a little wiggle. You can make them lighter, a little bit darker. You can make them gray. You don't have to be brown. You can just take some Paynes gray if you want to do that. Just some simple trees, kind of from those other ones, right? And we go back to our lovely green that we mixed up before. And we go do the same kind of tree. I'm just going to wiggle this pretty quickly. So you do want one little branch and have the little wiggle like pines coming off that. You could have it swooping down too if you want. It's up to you. How you want to do it. I'm mushing some of the areas here, you should see. We got a pine tree. I can have the branch kind of come down lower too. I had it up top, but I'm going to go one down lower. And there's our pine tree in front of the other ones. Boom. Right? And then we just add like another deep shadow again. Ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. I go in there and I get the blue. More blue though. Almost like a deep blue. I put it over there, I'm sorry. So I'm mixing it over here. Ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. And then of course we can add a deeper shadow with that tree. See that? We can kind of grab some water, dipping my brush in the water, tapping paper towel, and kind of mush it too. Over here, it's a little bit darker back here. Had that shadow go in there. And these guys can have a little shadow kind of coming back here. And a little deeper back here. Make it as deep as you want it. You can go back and make a little tree in here too. All depends on how you want to do this. Do another tree. It's really simple. You could add other things. And that's how you just do a simple landscape for winter. Add more grasses, a few here and there. It's just moving your brush, wiggling it back and forth, bleeding this whole color area in here, and tweaking it by adding in some depth with some shadows or not, you know. Got some darker shadows, put the tree back this way. I like the hot cold press because it has a nice little tooth to it, so you can make nice little marks, like dry brush marks like I just did there. And a little bit deeper back here. And that's that. So, I know you guys can paint this. Don't think you can't. You can. Really just kind of that wiggling back and forth with this long round brush for the tree. Doing a little bleeding, wet on wet here. So you got two techniques, you know, wet on wet, wet on dry. You can go back with your brush, right? Get it, I'm cleaning my brush. It's a little damp. Take some of that color, kind of hold it on its side and wiggle it, and you get a nice little dry brush happening to just kind of fade out some of those bright white areas. And you have a nice little landscape. Okay, now that it's done, you can remove the tape. You can splatter it with some gouache for snow. Gouache. This is gouache, Gouache. And it's not going to be 100% watercolor if you do that, but it doesn't matter. If you want to just use it for a nice holiday card. Really kind of simple technique to play around with. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. And like I said, if you're a Patreon member, you get the bonus little extra winter landscape. So take care, and I'll speak to you soon.